The world is on edge as tensions continue to mount on the Korean Peninsula. And joining me now to help break it all down is Cedric Leighton, former U.S. Air Force Colonel and president and founder of Cedric Leighton Associates. Thanks for joining us this evening.
My pleasure, Elaine. Thanks for having me.
The DPRK's neighbors have obviously responded and reacted to its latest threat, and the White House came out and said it believes that there is a diplomatic solution. So what is that solution, and how do we get there?
Well, that's going to be the $64,000 question, to borrow an old metaphor. The big problem that we have from a foreign relations standpoint is that there are several different interests that govern the Korean Peninsula. You have China's interests, you have, of course, South Korea's interests, the North's interest, Japan's interests, and, of course, the United States' interest. If there is common ground among all of those nations, I think it is basically a solution for the nuclear problem with North Korea. And that would mean some kind of agreement that would allow the North to actually eliminate its nuclear weapons, if at all possible. That would be in the U.S.'s best interest, and China could probably benefit from that as well. There are several other things that need to happen, and that they would be really to de-escalate the tensions, military tensions on the Korean Peninsula, and really tone down the rhetoric that we currently are seeing. And that's the biggest problem. How do we get there? Really by stopping the rhetoric, and I think China and the U.S. are both trying to do that in their own respective ways.
Well, that being said, any day now, any moment, we could see some sort of action come out of the DPRK once again. What will it take to bring the DPRK to the table to even talk?
I think if there's enough international pressure exerted on the DPRK to prevent it from moving further down the path of this very heated rhetoric, I also think that if it is made very clear to the government of North Korea that there will be more sanctions, more economic sanctions, perhaps other sanctions that limit even its very small access to the rest of the world, that can make a huge difference. And then finally, if it's made clear that the way forward for the DPRK is through peaceful cooperation with all of its neighbors, plus Japan and the United States, and that would then make a big difference. The question is, will Pyongyang see it that way, and will Pyongyang act if they are given the opportunity to act in that fashion? And that is really what we're waiting to see right now.
Well, everyone's been paying attention to this Kaesong industrial complex. DPRK said it was going to pull its workers out. It did. What happens next? Do they bring their workers back if they start seeing some ill effects of that move financially?
I think it really depends on how quickly those ill effects manifest themselves. I think that because of the nature of the DPRK regime, there won't be an immediate change. Because if they reverse course right now, it would mean that they would be losing face, they would be losing any prestige that they've gained either internally or externally because of their actions. And prestige doesn't necessarily mean a positive thing, but what it does mean is it means that they have a bit of leverage, and they hope to exercise a degree of leverage over the South Korean companies that were at Kaesong. That remains to be seen if they really will, but they believe that they can do that, and I think they will try to do that as long as they possibly can before it hurts them in terms of foreign currency reserves and other things of that nature. So that's the big issue for the North Koreans, and they may not be as dependent on foreign currency reserves as we in the West and in Beijing would like to think that they are.
It's been a little bit over a month now since these sanctions from the UN came down. It hasn't seemed to bother them. Are they working? And if something happens in the next couple hours, in the next couple of days, if they take it up a notch and do something militarily, what could happen next? Could the UN come back and do something even more? Would it be effective?
Well, I think the sanctions are working in a limited way. Otherwise, we wouldn't see this kind of rhetoric from the North. And the DPRK is, I think, very sensitive to these kinds of sanctions, but they're saying to the rest of the world that that doesn't affect them. I don't think that's true. What I do believe is that given a certain degree of pressure, the DPRK will respond to the sanctions in a way that will probably result in some kind of a missile test. The Musudan missile, which is poised in the east coast of North Korea, that could potentially be used in a test firing over the East China Sea. That could make a difference in the way the North handles this. If the missile is sent out into the ocean without any land targets, then I don't think there will be a further reaction. But if for some reason it hits land targets targets, whether they're in South Korea, Japan, the United States, or some other territory, then I think the world reaction will be swift and unequivocal at that point.
All right, we'll leave it there. Cedric Leighton, again, appreciate your time as always. We'll see you back again next time.
Thank you so much, Elaine.